The title of my presentation was actually Engagement in Online Learning, and then where did my students or my instructor and classmates go? So basically what we're going to talk about today is how to engage students online. And specifically what I'd like to do, there's a lot of engagement opportunities online, but the very specific thing that I'm going to address today is how to do group projects online, successfully, that is. So that's the main topic for today, what we're going to talk about. But before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Reggie Cobb. I teach at Nash Community College, which is about 45 minutes east of Raleigh. So when I tell everybody where Nash Community College is, a lot of people think Nashville, Tennessee, or somewhere around there. But it's actually 45 minutes east of Raleigh. If you're going to the Outer Banks from Raleigh, then you go right past where I live, or where the school is, which is right on 64. We're right on the intersection of I-95 and 64. So if you ever travel along I-95 and it's during the day and you want to stop by and see our school, feel free to stop in. I'll show you around our campus. But anyway, today I am going to share what I do with my students. I've shared this presentation with my faculty and staff at my school, as well as some other presentations. I'm also going to intertwine a little bit of something called MindTap, which is a Cengage product that I am a consultant for, and I like to share this with everyone because it's a great product, and I'll share how I use that with my group projects. So, online learning. So what are the advantages of online learning? We've seen this. It's been a hot topic for quite some time. It still is. It's even more powerful now than it was back in the early 2000s. Back in 2001 is when I first came online, started teaching online. So the advantages, of course, is the flexibility of the schedule for both the instructor and the student. It's nice not to have to necessarily be at the same place at the same time all the time, right? It saves time as far as regarding travel. Students also save money, and also the institution saves money as far as gas for the students and also the resources for the institution. Of course, you have to have the learning management system, but you're going to have that anyway because of everyone else, even on-campus students, have access to that too. There's possibly more personable for those quiet students that are out there, to be able to communicate with their instructor. They might be a little bit more timid in a regular on-campus setting. The quiet students tend to communicate more. I found that out in this setting. So those are the advantages, and that's been the advantages for quite some time. But there are some disadvantages, as we know. With no specific time to meet, what happens? Some students, they lack the organizational skills. They're not prepared, or they aren't able to keep up. And so, having that ability to be able to communicate with them is very important. So students feel disconnected either from their classmates or from their instructor. They feel like they're doing an independent study, and that's not what it is. That's not what online education is supposed to be about, or education is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be sharing your knowledge and learning how to talk about and communicate what you're learning with others. And sometimes with online classes, we don't do that as well, or we don't do that at all sometimes. Also, procrastination may cause a student to not be able to perform as well on assignments. They try to hurry up and get done. They wait till 11:55 when it's due at 12 midnight, and they try to get it done in those 5 minutes. Versus if they were to start earlier, or if they were on campus, you could say, hey, next week we're going to be doing this. Make sure that you're working on the project. Sometimes that doesn't get relayed to the student as much, especially if they don't check their announcements or check the email or don't log in. It takes a two-part process. It takes the instructor to share those announcements. Also, it takes the student to log on to see those announcements. So sometimes there's this lack of communication. So that's some of the disadvantages. So how do we reduce those disadvantages? We like the advantages, right? But how do we reduce the disadvantagements? And I propose that it is engagement. You have to engage the student to get them to buy into learning the content. And it's just like in a regular class. You sit in class for hours at a time, listen to an instructor. You're not really engaged. Where do you actually do the learning? At home by yourself, but at least you have some information to start off with, or if the instructor records the presentation, you can go back and look at it later. But engagement is a very important process of education. For you to actually learn it, you need to be engaged, you need to be able to talk about it, and to be able to share what you're learning, or find out what you don't know. Maybe you thought you knew it, But then you get to the test, if you didn't really talk about it or form these study groups with your classmates or talked with your instructor, didn't have a chance to talk about it, then you may have thought that you knew it, but then you come up to the test, oh, Mr. Cobb, I'm sorry, I thought I knew it all, but I really didn't. So we have to have those opportunities to have engagement. So there's two types of engagement, and we know this as what we call asynchronous engagement as well as synchronous engagement. For asynchronous, this means that we have discussion boards, we have assignments that you have to submit, but the engagement that I'm talking about is engaging with either your fellow students or the instructor, and that would be, for example, posting an instructor posts a question for discussion on a discussion board, and then the students reply to the question, and then they reply to one another and have a dialogue and talk about what they're learning and what they're trying to understand, and that way they can talk about it and find out where they're not understanding something, or be able to give examples to further explain. And the more examples you give to students, the more likely they're able to make the connections and understand the content. So this is a great way for you to have a flexible schedule. Now, of course, it does require students to be able to log on. Many students wait until the last minute to respond. You guys have that happen? You try discussions? Right? Are they successful? What you have to do is you have to say, well, your first response needs to be done 3 days before you really want it due, and then that way they'll actually respond so you can actually have a discussion. So, early completers, I hear this all the time. Mr. Cobb, I'm busy on the day that it's due. I really want to discuss, but nobody's posted anything. What do I do? Well, you got to come back in and help discuss right before the end of the time period, I guess, because that's when it's due, and you need to have your discussion. So there's that time factor is something we have to think about, and I'll address that in just a minute. So as far as synchronous engagement, well, what can we do? We can have what we call virtual classes, and virtual classes. My definition of virtual class is where I am either at my computer in my office. I could be in a classroom with other students, and the students are on the other end at their house, or what was the third? I was thinking of a third one. Yeah, where you communicate to the other schools. Like we have a high school that we communicate with. The instructors are on campus, and the students are at the other end. Sometimes we don't have students in the classroom, but usually we have the students in the classroom. But this is where we have a group of students all together in one place at one time, and it's a live feed. Everybody is interacting, and we use something in Moodle called Big Blue Button. There are some limitations to that. What we're trying to find another solution, but Big Blue Button does, the version that we have, we're only allowed to have 2 instances going on at once, so we have to have a calendar for the whole school to decide who's going to be using it when. Right now it's mainly for online instructors to be able to communicate with students, but we're looking at other avenues. We've looked at Google Hangouts, and we're still searching.
Do you host your own version of Moodle?
No, we have it farmed out. Right. Mm-hmm.
We have not had that problem, but we host our own version.
So you have your own virtual conference area or whatever.
We've not had that issue with Big Blue Button. So that's your server you're putting, it's your provider.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Fortunately, we are able to get some services free to our schools since we're part of the North Carolina Community College system, and they provide some of the funding for our learning management system and stuff like that. So some of the specifics of how to students log on and stuff like that with Remote Learner. Now the other ways that you can communicate live is with virtual office hours. Now I used to call them virtual office hours and nobody ever attended. Then I started calling them supplemental instruction hours, and I had a few more. I still don't get a lot of students attending, but I'm there at a certain time online ready for them to communicate with me. And what I would like to do in the future, and I've just recently started changing the name of that, and as an institution we've decided we're not going to be in our offices anymore per se. We're going to be able to, when a student comes on campus to meet with us, we're going to find a common location so it's not necessarily always in the office where the student may feel intimidated that they're seeing the instructor. We're trying to reduce that barrier so the students will communicate with us. instead of feeling like that they can't they're bothering us when they come to our office hours. Well, that's what our office hours are for. But we're going to call them supplemental instruction to say, hey, we're here to help you. We'll go down to the lab. I teach biology. I don't know if I told you I taught biology. I think I did. But I teach biology. So we could go down to the lab and look at the models. We can talk about the problems that the students are having, and try to address those concerns that they have. Other ways that I'm available, or the ways that I'm available through the virtual office hours is by text. It could be voice. It could be video chat. And our school has adopted Google or Gmail as our campus email, so it's very easy to do the Google chat down in the bottom left-hand corner. You can also do a Google voice, or not Google voice, but Google texting, right? And Hangout, I'm sorry. Hangout is the video, the Google chat is the texting. And you can do a combination of the two, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. But the main problem with synchronous engagement is you lose that flexibility. Right? I have to be online at a certain time. And I don't know, how many of you guys teach online classes? Right? So of your online classes, when do they actually do the work usually? Right, late at night. Do you want to be online late at night? A lot of our instructors don't, but what we're starting to do is we're starting to see that we really need to. So our administration is allowing us to be more flexible with our schedules, so we won't have to be on campus from 8 to 5. We can have a more flexible schedule and possibly work on the weekend and be off some during the week, some days during the week. So we're looking at possible having a flexible schedule for online instructors. But again, flexibility is the main issue with having everyone at the same place at the same time. So how do we address that? So one possible solution are Google Apps. How many of you guys use Google Apps? Oh, yay. So I might be preaching to the choir here. You may already know about these. So I'm going to go through how I use Google Apps with the online group projects. So basically this presentation discusses what we call Google Drive or Google Sheets, docs and slides. Also, I'll mention Google Chat. As we mentioned, Google Hangout. And then there's also a feature where you can actually record yourself using Google Hangout on air. And that feature is very easily accessible. At first, I couldn't figure out where it was, and you had to go into the Google Plus area. But now you can actually log into YouTube, and you can record, or you can start a Google Hangout on air right in YouTube. There's actually a link for doing like when you want to upload a video, you can do a recording instead. So that link is directly there, and it saves it right into YouTube for you. All right, so overview of how my online group projects work. So first, the students are provided basic information, just like you would with a regular class. Here are the instructions for the assignment. You need to do this, this, and this. This is the type of presentation or the paper that you need to submit at the end. And then I provide guidance as far as how to get there. And it's really a four-step process, it's a four-step process. So basically, students have to go to a Google spreadsheet and sign up for a topic. Now, sometimes I choose the topics, and then the students will sign up for a certain topic. Sometimes they choose the topic, they put in the topic that they want, and then they put their name beside that topic. So the groups are formed on the spreadsheet. Everybody can access it, right? And I'll go through each one of these in more detail in just a minute. This is just an overview. Now, once we have the Google the sign-up sheet complete, then we're ready for the plan of action. This is a very key feature. A plan of action says, hey, this is what I'm going to do for my group to help get the project done. And they're held accountable for their work that they're going to say. They're not held accountable for their partner's work. Now, they are held accountable for the whole presentation when you submit it. But if your partner doesn't do their part, your grade is not affected by their inability to be able to get the work done. And so that's what a plan of action is. Question? Oh, no. All right. And then the third step is that one group member will create a Google slide presentation and then share it with the other. What this does is it allows them to be able to work on the same project and not have to say, hey, you do these slides and I'll do these slides, and one of you has to put it together and then share it with the class. So everybody's working on the project together at the same time, or not necessarily at the same time, but you're working on the same document so that you have a product when you're done. All right, then the students work on the presentation. They can use comments, chats, and the Google Hangout. And then at the very end, when they're finished, they can submit their presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these steps just briefly and explain the advantages and some of the disadvantages of these different steps. So the first step is creating the Google spreadsheet. It's very simple. You guys know how to use Google Excel. It's the same basic process. Now what I've done here is if you have this presentation, if you want to download it, what I've done is I've made it where if you're in the presentation mode in PowerPoint, or if you're just in the, I think if you're in the mode of, in the Google Slides, you can just right-click on it and get the link. But you can click on this directly. I have a little note there that says you can click on this, and it takes you to a sample spreadsheet. Now, of course, if you're not doing biomes, you can always delete those out and do your own list. I provide directions up at the top that says, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. And these are the instructions. And when I first started out, I didn't put the fourth column over there. When are you available? Then students were saying, well, I don't know exactly when that person's available. I don't know if I need to sign up with them or not. Also, I encouraged them to say, hey, are you going to be an early completer or are you going to procrastinate? Well, they won't put the procrastinate, but are you going to be an early completer? Do you want to get it done? And I tell them, if you want to get it done, you put it over there in your box beside member number 1 or wherever you sign up. You put when you're available and when you want to get it done, when you want to have it completed by, and the students sign up for it. Now, if I have more students than the biomes listed, what I tend to do is I tend to make another whole sheet down below, and then I have 2 different groups doing the deciduous forest or the desert or whatever. But usually I say that no group can do the same project. We don't want everybody doing the tropical rainforest, which is what everybody wants to do because it has cool pictures and all, or maybe the ocean biome because they have cool things because they like oceanography. So they have to choose one. It's first come, first serve, right? And so that's what they do. So I have a spreadsheet for you to get started if you want to use it. Of course, you can make your own if you want. So let's go back to the presentation. So the advantages. Oh, come on. Oh, I clicked on it again. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. I have to move the mouse out of the way. All right, so the advantages. This is one place for everybody to sign up. First come, first serve. We know who is doing what. Right? Anyone can participate in the same activity. So I have one sign-up sheet for my on-campus students, my virtual students, and my online students. They all work together. You can be an on-campus student and work with an online student if you want to. It doesn't matter because you're going to be working on the project outside of class. Now, sometimes I give a little bit of time in lab for the students to be able to work on it. They can grab a laptop or go to the computer lab and work on the presentations together. I actually had one group one time, they actually did Google Chat with each other from each other in the lab just to learn how to do Google Chat with each other. They were looking at each other through the camera on the laptops. So it's very easy to customize for any topic. As you can see, all you have to do is change the titles or whatever. You can customize it however you want. Now, the disadvantage, of course, is somebody can go in and delete your name off of there and put their name on there. I've had that happen. So what happens? Well, you can actually go... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I actually have a picture a little bit later that shows you up at the top of the Google spreadsheet, it has a history, right? And you can click on there and see who posted what, and I could tell who it was that overrode the person's name. So, of course, I emailed them and said, sorry, you're going to have to choose a different topic because they were here first. Basically, you can't take their seat or their spot. You got to choose a different topic. Also, the cool thing about the spreadsheet is that, or about Google Docs, is it saves it automatically. It's the feature that's readily available, when you're working on your presentation and stuff. All right, so then next is the plan of action. The plan of action, I think, was the key factor. When I first started doing group projects, I didn't have a plan of action. And then one student was taking control. I've done group projects for a long time, and even on campus as well. But once I added the plan of action, I found that students were more apt to doing it. I've actually had more students complete the activity than blow it off and not do it at all, because they said, I'm going to do this, and they felt the responsibility of, oh, I need to help my partner out, or my partners if you want to do more than 2 people to a group. I tend to do 2 so that, if you get too many people working on the project, sometimes it gets a little hectic or whatever, but I have them group up in pairs. But what I do is I use, this is called the Connect Yard and MindTap. You could use the discussion board in Moodle or Blackboard or whatever. But what I like about the Connect Yard in MindTap is that actually it can link to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those different social media aspects. So and it also text, you can get it via text through your phone or whatever. So the student doesn't have to log into Connect Yard to see the message. It actually sends it to the student to whichever media that they decide. They actually have the option of choosing which type of media. So I think I have that on here. Right? The Connect Yard is a permanent document. It's a contract. It's basically saying, I am going to do this. Once they submit it, yes, they could alter it, but at least everybody knows that that's what they're going to be doing. It's a public announcement. Now, postings can't be edited by others. You can't change it, and your partner can't say, well, I'm going to do this instead. Right? They can't put up a message that says, well, I didn't really agree to that, and then we can have a discussion about that. But what I like for them to do is discuss who's going to do what first, and then post what their group is going to do on the plan of action. The timing is the very important part. The plan of action needs to be done at least a week in advance. The purpose of that is so when students, so that you can tell if a student is ready to complete the assignment. This prevents the procrastination part. So if a group does not provide their plan of action, and yes, I had to make it as a grade. If they didn't make it as a grade, they still wouldn't do it. So I made it as part of their grade for the assignment that says you need to do the plan of action on this Monday. Next Monday is when it's due. And so once they did the plan of action, I found that most of my students actually went ahead and did the project because they knew what they were going to do and they went ahead and did it. Now, of course, I have a few that still flake out at the end or something comes up and they don't get it done in time. But, of course, they need to contact me if they're having issues with time management or whatever. But it needs to be well in advance. This allows me to be able to say, hey, your group didn't post anything. What's going on? And so then that way we can have a discussion about, hey, you need to get caught up this week. You have a week to get it done. You need to let me know what you are doing to help your group out. And again, it does reduce procrastination. All right, and then we have the Google presentation. So once they've done the plan of action, it's time to get to work on the project. So what the student does is that they will go into their Google Drive, which is free. If you have a Gmail account, all you do is click in the top left-hand corner. There's a set of icons up there, little squares, and you go to your Google Drive, and then you create a presentation. And I have a quick video here that shows you how to create a presentation and then also share it with someone. And the share button is right here on the left, which up on the right-hand side. Sorry, my left, your right. All right, so here's a quick video, and again, I have linked the video in the campus technology area. Also, if you need this presentation, I can share it with you too, and you can click on this to get the link. A lot of instructors want to share this with their colleagues.
Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides make it easy to work on your files with other people. It doesn't matter whether they're in the same room or halfway around the world. You just share your file with the people you want to work with. Let's take a look at how useful this can be. Amy and John use Google Docs to work on their travel newsletter at the same time, even when they're miles apart. Amy creates a new document and shares it with John. She gives him edit access, which means that both of them can make changes to the document at the same time. Once they're set up, Docs lets them work together in a few different ways. Amy knows when John is working on the newsletter because his profile picture appears on screen, and she can watch him work as he types. She can use chat to start a conversation. And if John isn't online at the same time she is, she can stay in touch with comments. So the next time John views the file, he can respond to Amy. And Amy can click Resolve when he's addressed her comment. Between chat and comments, no good ideas get left behind. Docs, Sheets, and Slides also make it easy to bring other people into the conversation. So when Amy has a question for her boss, Catherine, she types Catherine's name into a comment using the plus sign, and Catherine gets an email letting her know she needs to weigh in. Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. Keep everyone on the same page. For more information about real-time collaboration, visit the Help Center.
All right, I guess a lot of you guys have used that before, but did you realize that there was a feature that you could actually download Google Drive to your computer? And so that you have a folder on your computer that resides, and you can just basically put your documents there, and it syncs to your laptop, to your iPad, to your computer at school, and things like that. A lot of my instructors are still learning that at my school. That's a neat feature that we have. All right, so that's how we get students to share. So I share that video with the students. I haven't had any students have any concerns with using the Google Slides. I don't require the Google presentation. I don't require them to use that. They can still use PowerPoint if they want to, but most of them are going to it because it's very simple. It's easy to use, and it's always available online. They don't have to worry about bringing a flash drive to school to work on it. They have it available all the time. So a lot of our students are using this, and with your Gmail account, it's freely available. All right, so sharing the presentation, once the student creates the presentation, they share it with their group members. And then the collaboration part, the students can work at the same time. So as you saw in the video, they can be online at the same time, or they could do it at different times. Maybe I work in the morning, the other student works in the afternoon, or somebody else works in the afternoon, and we want to collaborate. However, we're not at the same place at the same time. That's okay. You can use the comment feature. Say, hey, what do you think about my slides here? Or the next time you log in, you can see what the student has done or your classmate has done, and it allows you to be able to work with one another asynchronously. However, you're engaging with the other student by working on a project together. So the Google Chat is embedded. So how many of you guys are, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask a question, but at our school, we actually do sign-ups for like our enrichment and our professional development. We have sign-up sheets for different topics that we're going to do, sort of like we do with the presentations here where you go to different rooms or whatever, but we have people sign up so we don't have too many in one room at one time. So we actually have a sign-up sheet, which is a Google spreadsheet. So sometimes we're online at the same time. We start chatting over to the side and say, hey, what you doing today? Want to go to lunch or whatever? So you can actually chat with one another if you can see them online up at the very top in that. It's very easy to use. All right, so then we're ready to submit the presentation. Again, this needs to be a solution that allows you to be able to say that this is my project, I am done. They could submit it via email, but I don't want to get bombarded by email. So what happens is, what I use is the Connect yard once again. I create another yard in the Connect yard where they post their presentations. Now, what I tend to do with this, it does not allow you to be able to attach a file, but it allows you to be able to link to the document itself. So, so far all my students have used the Google Drive when I've used the Connect yard. I just recently started using Connect yard. Before I used the Moodle discussion board, and they could actually attach a file. But with the Connect yard, again, it will send it to social media, and the students can actually respond and communicate with one another. I encourage students to be able to interact once they submitted the presentation. Please come back and reflect upon and look at the other student, your classmates' submissions. So this is a final submission, allows the students to be able to view all the presentations. And sometimes with my presentations for my Bio 110 class, which is general biology, when they go out and find pictures of different animals, I actually use those pictures on the test. And so they can go back and review all the pictures of the different groups of animals that other students have found the pictures of. And I tend to tell them to, you need to go back and look at those presentations because those are the pictures I'll use. So a lot of them go back in there and then they save the pictures onto a file or onto their computer, and then they study those pictures so they can identify them later. So the class can add comments here. The Connect yard integrates with social media, as I said, and text messaging. The students can decide how they want to receive it. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. If you don't use Facebook, that's okay. There's several different avenues that you can receive it, or you can go into MindTap itself and get to it as well. All right, so the format in MindTap looks like this. It's the format, like I said, it's a four-step process, basically. 4 things that I add to, and it's in this order. Now, this is called the learning path in MindTap. What this does, what MindTap does, which I like versus other platforms, is that everything is in this area. Now, I'm not showing you here, but they actually have, our textbook is actually a web-based version, and they can, instructors can actually modify the text. You can add your presentations, you can add videos anywhere in the textbook that you want. You can delete the text if you want to. You can delete a whole chapter, decide what chapters you want, and the students can go through, and it's a seamless format. They go to this, and do all of their assignments in one place. They don't have to worry about going out to a website and remember the login or anything like that. We have it connected directly through Moodle, which is our learner management system that they log into anyway, and it links them directly into MindTap. And what I can do is I can actually link, it's called Mind Links, allows them to be able to link directly to like Chapter 4 stuff or Chapter 5 stuff without having to go to a general splash site that says, well, now where do I go when I see the calendar, or where do I go when I, to get to what chapter was I supposed to be working on? You click on the direct link to that assignment so the students can actually access it. You don't get lost out there in internet world when you go to log in and you start to see your Yahoo account or your Yahoo News, and 45 minutes later, you haven't done any work, and then it's too late and you're going to go to bed. So I found that students are more engaged and they're less distracted by using this type of format. But this is what it looks like. It's a 4-step process. So the sign-up sheet is first. It's just basic link to the website. And then the plan of action. I have instructions on how to get to the Connect Yard. And then another link to the video that shows them how to create the presentation. Of course, after the first time, when they do the next presentation, they really probably wouldn't watch that video again. So it's really 3 steps after that. But I always include it anyway. And how many projects do I do during the semester? I don't do it for every chapter. I usually do 2 projects during the semester. Then that way they get a chance to work with 2 different students. I've thought about doing 3, but then we've got, sometimes it is time consuming to do a group project. But I want them to experience it, because what we're finding is that in the real world, out in jobs, that's what they're doing. They're actually communicating using different apps like these, and communicating with one another from different areas without having to drive to the different locations. So the students are actually getting real world experience in this class. And of course, I have a link to the to the Connect Yard to post the assignment. So what's the benefit of this format? The students participate as a group. You can see where everybody is, right? The students share when they're available to work on the project. You can have synchronous and video and text chatting. It's not required, but it's optional, but not required. Some students are using it more often than others, but they can at least work together with one another. All right, as far as the staggered due dates, that's the most important part, is that you have the plan of action due 1 week and then the actual project due the next week. If you don't do anything else, if you don't want to use this format as far as doing group projects, if you want to have them turn in a project, I encourage you to have them English teachers do this all the time, right? You submit a rough draft. It lets you know that they're actually working on something before the due date. It lets you know that they're actually talking about or thinking about what they're going to be doing. Doesn't mean they've done it, though, of course, doing the plan of action. So other possibilities besides doing group projects online, you could actually do a group project on campus. I've actually done this with my virtual students on the other end and my own campus, my students on campus, where I have a Google Doc and it has 15 questions that we want to discuss for the lecture. So what I do is I post it up or make it available to them. I say, go in there and you answer number 1 and you answer number 2 and you answer number 3 and 4 and 5 during the class time. And then once everybody answers the question, then we'll have a discussion about them. And then what I do is I let the students go through each question, and they sort of help guide the lecture or guide the discussion. So you can have a discussion using Google Docs where students participate. You could have them do it ahead of time if you wanted to. Have them work on one document, and I've actually done this. I haven't required it, but I have like a study guide for the chapters, and the students can go in and work together to create a group study guide. It's the discussion questions in a format very similar to what we're going to discuss in class, but it's in question format, and they can work together and decide. Now, of course, they're gung-ho at the beginning of the semester, and they do the first 3, and then what happens? One person starts answering all the questions. So, I haven't quite figured out how to, without making it required, how to get everyone to participate, or, several people to participate in that, but at least I provide it to them, right, for them to be able to discuss. The finished product is accessible to everyone to review. So once we're done in that, when I was talking about the in-class activity that I did, once it's done, they have access to those notes. So everybody has created a study guide to help them, and we worked on it together in class. Now, I have a link here, and this is, when I did this before, some instructors really wanted this. It's really cool. What are your different types of collaborators, right? We have your ringleader. that's trying to make sure everything gets done. And you have your stealth ninja that lurks there in the background, and they try to get work done, but they don't want to be recognized. You have the executive that wants to be in charge a lot. Then you have your socialite that wants to use social media. And anyway, I'm not going to read all of these, but I thought it was a really cool thing of the different types of collaborators that you might have online. The more people you get involved, the more different ones like this that you're going to have. Right? You're going to have some people that don't want to do anything, the soloists, that wants to do it all by themselves. They don't want to work in a group. You have the dinosaur that says, oh, I don't know how to use the product. I don't know how to use Google Docs, and I'm not going to do it. So, I try to prevent them from doing that by, having small groups instead of large groups. And then as I move forward from here, so right now I just have them post a presentation. What I like to do is, in the future, require them to actually present online. If they're an online student or on-campus student, usually we have them stand up and talk about their project, right? Well, why can't we make them or require them, right? We can't make them, but we could require them as part of their grade to record themselves. Of course, we have technology concerns and things like that we'll have to work through. But we have Google Hangouts on Air. Recently, I've learned of Screencast-O-Matic, up to 15 minutes for free. It will record the screen and your webcam. So Hangouts only records one or the other. I don't know if you already knew that or not, but it only records one or the other. You have to choose either your face or the presentation. But the Screencast-O-Matic does allow you to be able to do both. But now, if you're working in a group and doing a group project, then you have to have a group setting like Google Hangout on Air where both of you can be online at the same time and share the screen together and things like that, share different screens. But of course, we have to worry about when we start doing this type of presentation and they're doing it together, they have to be on the same, at the same place, or at the same time doing the project or doing the recording, unless you do two different recordings. A few other things. I know my time is up. Yes, no, yeah, I got about 2 minutes. There's some things in MindTap that are really cool. If you were here earlier and you saw the video of MindTap, there's the read speaker. It will read the textbook to them, or they can highlight a section if a student's having issues with or a concern with one section, they can't quite understand it. Sometimes hearing somebody read it to them helps them to be able to really understand it. So you can highlight it and it will read just that section. You can change it from male to female, speed it up, you can slow it down. There's several different features that you have with that. And of course, I already talked about the Connect Yard. There's interactive flashcards. Students can make their own, or there's some for every chapter. The cool feature that I like that a lot of students, my students didn't know, and I didn't know at first, is that they can actually print them off. And what it does is it prints, if you print front and back, what it will do is it will show you the dotted lines, and it puts the term on one side and the definition on the other. They just cut along the dotted line. They have their flashcards ready to go. They're already typed out for them. Now, some people say that, well, you learn by writing them down when you're doing the flashcards, but it gives them more time to actually interact with the flashcards. The highlights and the notes, notebook and bookmarks, these are all features to help students to be able to create a study guide. They can highlight different sections of the textbook, and then it puts it over in one section together, and they can actually print it off, and so all they get is the highlighted section. Of course, we know this as we were in school. The more you highlight, the more times you highlight, the more you get too much stuff. So you have to be careful of highlighting things like that. But it allows you students to be able to grab things and put it over here and then print off just the highlights of what they're looking at. And then also you can use bookmarks so students can go to a direct page. And then, of course, with CNOW is online testing, just like different products have online testing capabilities where you have timers and you can only do it one time or you can do it 3 times, and you have different features like that. All right, any questions about my presentation or Google, or want to share what you're doing with your Google apps? No? Okay. All right, I have some extra free apps that work. You may have already, this is probably common knowledge now. Cam Scanner is a document scanner. You don't need a scanner anymore. All you need is a phone, Android or iPhone. Take a picture of it. You can save it as a PDF file. It saves it it looks just like you scan it on a computer. It brings out the black and white, and it makes it look just like a regular page. Very good quality. Team Viewer, if you want to be able to have access to your computer at home. Of course, your computer has to be on, but you can remote control your computer. One day, I had saved something on my desktop, and I have my computer home, which I usually do, I could actually access my computer using my iPad or using, I can't remember if it was my iPad or if it was my laptop at school, but I could access the file and send it to myself. It's a remote control access where you can access somebody else. Of course, they have to agree to it, and you got to set it up. But it doesn't take that much to set it up. But it's a free app, and it's a downloadable feature on your computer. My Script Calculator. This is where you basically write with your finger, right? And it changes it into a regular typed, and it recognizes even the cosines and all those different things that I forgot in my math classes. You can actually write, and it solves your problems. It converts it to the digital text. You can do 4 times 5 or whatever. You can do something that complex. And then just a few others. Screencast-O-Matic, which is what I mentioned before, 15 minutes for free. After that is $15 for the year. What I did with that this summer was I allowed my students to complete their... Only 2 students took advantage of this. Of course, they had to get approval. They recorded themselves taking a proctored exam, and they recorded their surroundings, and they read the questions aloud, and then allowed me to be able to see them the whole time they were taking the test. That was their proctored exam instead of coming on campus. They had to get the $15, they had to pay $15, which was cheaper than gas because they lived more than an hour away. It was going to cost them $50 or so to actually come to all of the... I have 6 different exams that they have to come on campus for the proctored exam to make sure that they're the student on the other end. That's my concern now. I have had some... a student a couple of years ago said, "Mr. Cobb, my friend's having somebody else take your class online. They're paying them $150 to do that." I was like, "What?" So I had to do something. So I am requiring my students to do proctored exams. If they're not living in the area, they can get a proctor in there, or they're not within an hour, or if they're within an hour, they have to come on campus. But if they're not, they can get a proctor in their community where they are, or if they have certain restrictions, like if they're a teacher and they don't have any child care after school, they can get an administrator at their school to be able to administer the exams. And I give the proctor the information to help them to get logged on and stuff like that. This morning, Dr. Hirsch mentioned something called Plickers. Have you guys heard of Plickers? Did you hear it this morning? Basically, you print off these little cards and it says A, B, C, D, and you can scan the room, and you can see who answered what. It's like polling, but it's the no-cost polling, basically. Just takes the papers, and you can actually do it as an entrance ticket, exit ticket, or use it as attendance. If you have a large classroom, you can use it as attendance. All you do is you hold up your smartphone, and it recognizes which way the students are turning it. And with I think with the paid, I can't remember how much the paid version is, but with the paid version, you can actually write the students' names in and stuff, and you can give them a card for all semester, and it recognizes them as the student.
You can do that for the free version up to 61.
Up to 61. Okay, thank you. Yep. So you can do it for free with up to 61. And I know I'm out of time, but 3 other ones here. One of them is related to, again, grading, zip grades. This turns your phone or tablet into an optical grading machine, like a Scantron. Right? It reads free to download answer sheets. There's Scantron sheets that you have to buy, and sent through the Scantron machine. You don't have to do that. It's a free free sheet that you can download it, and they have different versions. I think there's like 20 questions, 50 questions, or 100 question bubble sheet, basically. And you set up your answer sheet. You take a picture of it, line up the little corners, take a picture of it, and it grades the students automatically. And the person who shared this at another conference that I was at, she actually said that when she grades them, she has a drop and run pile and a stay or stay and see your grade pile. And the students can decide if they want to stay and see their grade. They can see what their grade is before they even leave the class. And this is not using the computer. This is using regular standard testing, on-campus type of testing. You could use this as exit tickets if you wanted to, for quizzing. Different things like that. But again, it's zip grades. It also does statistics. It tells how many answered A, B, C, D, things like that. So it does those different stats and things like that. If you're into that stuff, as far as knowing, if 80% of the class missed the question or whatever, it's really a bad question probably. But things like that. Then 2 other ones. I know this is near and dear to me, which is biology. iCell app I've used with my students. If you teach biology, this is a really cool virtual app. which is free and available in Apple. I'm not sure about Android. And then one that is less common, and you actually have to type in like into your search engine or into a website, Micro Explorer app, and then you have to include NCSU. When you just do the Micro Explorer, it doesn't find it for some reason. But NC State University created a virtual microscope. It's really cool. The students can click on the different parts of the scope. It tells them what their functions are. They can manipulate it, turn it around, and different things. So it's two really cool apps related to biology that I like to share. Sorry, I held you over, but thank you. That's my email address. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, thanks for coming.